Hi, Izzy. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I was just saying before we hit record how literally, like, yes, how you've done in my world, which is incredible, but I'm also just like so excited to share your work. I've never, ever, ever seen anything in the relationship space like what you do. And I know, especially because my audience is full of so many spiritual women, there's just going to be like this deep resonance with how you approach your work. And Izzy is a soulmate guide, which is like, we have to find words to say what you do, but really, you are like a quantum healer, high priestess, channel of the divine, all of these like incredible things that cannot possibly be wrapped up in a title. But literally, it is such an honor to have you today. And I'm so excited for my audience to witness your magic.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'm so excited to dive in.
So, could you tell us so people can get to know you? I always love to just have the quick astrology check
Mhm.
in, your sun, moon, and your rising. And then
Yes.
also just like your background, who you are, because I just love you're an American, but you live in Mexico City. I think you're Brazil, but aren't you ethnically Brazilian?
I'm ethnically Brazilian. Yeah.
Yeah. And just about like your journey before we even dive into the businessy things, because you've had such an interesting life.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm Izzy. I'm a Scorpio. My mother held me in for 2 weeks because she felt that I was meant to be a Scorpio. So I was born 5 hours after Libra switched over to Scorpio. My mom went into labor at a Mexican restaurant and she was so nervous because when she went into labor, the sun was still in Libra. So she was like, oh my God, fuck, fuck, fuck. This baby is not supposed to be a Libra. But it ended up being a long labor. So I came out as Scorpio, Aquarius moon, Sagittarius rising. I think I have like 5 major placements in Scorpio. So it's like all Scorpio and fire energy in there. Manifesting generator. I am ethnically Brazilian. I'm a Brazilian citizen. My mom is Brazilian. She's from Rio de Janeiro. My whole family is there. My dad moved to Brazil on a whim in the 80s. My dad was born in the US, first generation German American. And that's how my parents met. They are still happily divorced. That was not a good match, but
Still happily divorced. I love that.
yeah. Brazil, we spent most of the year in the US growing up, but we would spend, anywhere from like 3 to 5 months of the year in Brazil. And it's just such an intense culture. It had such an impact on me. That's where my spirituality is from. My great grandfather actually emigrated from France to Brazil because he was a spiritualist. He was a super advanced astral projector, and he just needed more freedom to explore his spirituality. He ended up marrying an indigenous woman who was a really hardcore witch. And yeah, they were huge in bringing the spiritualist movement to Brazil, setting up healing centers there. Yeah, so I think that's just like where the root of my spirituality is.
Well, and I love it because on one of our private calls, you told me that your parents are witches. And I was like, ooh, I love that.
Yes. Yeah, I come from a long lineage of witches.
So good. So, could you please share with us a little bit about your work? I know you call yourself a soulmate guide, and I've just never seen anything like it in terms of the way that you approach and also just your belief system around it's not just like, oh, become a match to the love of your life. Like, you
Right.
have deep beliefs around the importance of soulmates actually coming together and also around just, women and their bodies and how we feel and our confidence and all of it that go way beyond just, we pick up what's presented on the media literally just to make money and we respond to it. Like you have
Mm,
a very like ancient kind of like anchor point in a good way, meaning like the history behind
yeah.
how you feel and move inside your business. And I would love for people to hear about it because it's just such important work and it rings so true to my soul.
Yeah. So I think as a child, I always felt like this longing for love. Like I started reading romance books when I was like 11, you know, and luckily, you know, I came in, I think, pretty activated in my spiritual gifts, and luckily both of my parents are witches, so I never faced any shaming. Personally, at least. I mean, they did send us to Catholic school, which was like, I don't know what they were thinking, but
They're like, we
we
want you to know what the Matrix is like, just so you're
yeah,
aware.
it's so funny. That's so funny because I did come to feel that way after I graduated. It was like, it was definitely, I mean, I wouldn't be where I am if I hadn't gone to Catholic school because I just wouldn't know what was up, you know? I wouldn't
Yeah.
have stared so deep into like these dark agendas and been so immersed in them because yeah, I mean, it fucks you up. So yeah, so you know, after school, I went to college. I studied religious studies. I knew I just had this like sense that there had been a version of me in the past that devoted their life to like studying like these ancient texts, and I just wanted to do that. So that's what I did. I studied Hebrew. I studied abroad in Israel. I did like biblical archaeology in Israel, like all of the things, and it was so activating. I was like 18, you know, like going to all these sacred sites in Israel, and that just kind of started it. Started this voyage. Or actually, you know, when I was 16, I took a heroic dose of mushrooms, and that is when the soulmate information started to come through to me. When I was 16, so I took like the heroic dose of mushrooms. I had a conversation with this tree. She's like a 500-year-old oak tree in Orlando, and she just started telling me stuff about, you know, like how humans incarnate on this planet. She started telling me stuff about soulmates. She started talking to me about sexuality, you know, like human constructs around sexuality and human constructs around gender, that once I got to college, I would, you know, like talk about in class, be like, wow, where did you read that? I'd be like, oh no, like this tree told me when I was on drugs. And then after college, you know, through college and after college, I was a professional dumpster diver for a nonprofit, which was great, but started a bunch of kind of like really toxic programs around business that we've been clearing through our work together. Went to grad school, lived in Europe for a few years, fell in love with what I came to realize was what I call a false twin in my work. I had a super traumatic breakup. I've actually never told this story publicly before, but when we broke up, I couldn't leave his apartment because it was snowing and it was like 3 a.m. So he went to sleep and I, you know, attempted to go to sleep next to him. And this train, we were in the Jewish district in Budapest, and this train of ghosts came into his bedroom that were all dressed in kind of like 40s, 30s, 50s type clothing. And they held a reverse wake for me. So they lined up and each came forward and looked over me in the bed like I was dead, but I was alive and they were dead. And they were so loving. It was I always say it was the first time in my life I've ever encountered unconditional love, because all of these ghosts or beings or whatever they were just coming up, looking at me with so much love and then walking away. And then once the train of like 150 of these beings left, I astral projected out of my body and I left a handful of gold coins on my ex's table, and I just astral projected to wherever. I couldn't hold it after that. I fell asleep or passed out or whatever. The next day I got up, I flew back to the US, and I was like, I'm devoting my life from now on to figuring out what the fuck happened in that relationship, why it was so traumatizing, and like getting my shit together, because I cannot keep going through these traumatic relationships and breakups. So I just went through intensive hypnotherapy. My dad gave me a blank check and was like, here, go work with my hypnotherapist. I don't care how much it costs, just like come back a normal person, basically. Um, and I did that. I did QHHT with her. You know, she really taught me a lot about, you know, like, you know, incarnation and past lives. And we did so many past life regressions, and we did past life regressions to like other planets. And that really initiated me, I think. And then the week that we ended our work together, I saw a job posting to work as a matchmaker. I applied as a joke because I wasn't sure that it was real. And like 3 hours later, they got back to me, and then they hired me 6 days later. So that kind of started my journey.
So cool. What is a false twin?
So a false twin, and this comes actually from the mythology of Guinevere and Arthur, but it's someone who energetically and even like sometimes physically looks and feels so much like your soulmate that you get like energetically tied up with them and trapped, and you feel like, oh my God, if I leave them, I'm going to lose my soulmate, blah, blah, blah. But the relationship is highly toxic. So, a lot of new age people will call this like a twin flame dynamic, but I don't really like to do that because I think it enables women to stay in abusive relationships. Like, it enables really shady men to entrap women in relationships by claiming to be their twin flame or whatever. So I call it a false twin.
I love that. And what do you believe, or what has informed your belief system around something that you share just in your messaging is around how, like, basically that being connected to your soulmate actually changes the vibration of the planet?
Yeah.
And what do you feel about that? Because I've never heard anybody else say that. And it's funny because you said you're lots of Scorpio and some fire, and I'm all fire with some Scorpio. And like my Scorpio sees you're a Scorpio. I'm obsessed with your depth. And I've never heard, and I'm like, of course a Scorpio would come up with this message. This is so good. So what does that mean to you?
Oh my God, yeah. So actually this is buried in esoterica. So this isn't something I came up with. When I was in college, reading like Jewish mystical texts, there's one called The Lights of Holiness by Abraham Isaac Cook. And he talks about how if you are a person who's like really living your truth, really authentic, living your spiritual path, you just shine light, right? And like your light activates light in other people. And this was written in like I think the 1800s. So your light just activates light in other people. When you come together in romantic sexual partnership with someone who's also super embodied in their light, it's like a fucking explosion of light on the planet. So that was the first time I heard it, and you can pick that up in other places in esoteric literature. But for me, I also kind of reverse engineered because I was like, okay, why is it so hard to meet your soulmate? Like, why is there so much bullshit about dating around? Like, why are we so conditioned through the media, through music, through movies to be in toxic relationships? Like, the dark agendas aren't connected to source energy, so they don't have their own source of energy, right? So when they use energy trying to attack you or create an agenda, you have to understand that they're coming from a finite source of energy, so they never waste energy. They never do anything that doesn't have a reason. So I'm like, what would be their reason for wanting to keep soulmates apart? What would be their reason for wanting to create these like really traumatizing family systems? Like, okay, because if you're actually with your soulmate, you're shining so much fucking light that it's like an atomic explosion of light on the planet. You're able, and this specifically, the ability to channel higher dimensional souls, that comes from ancient Hindu works. You're able to channel higher dimensional souls onto the planet. You create a family system that's not going to traumatize the shit out of your children. So then their whole agenda of darkness, their whole negative power structure begins to break down just with that, of like, just with two people coming together in love and like, yeah, okay, it's not always easy, and being like, let's create a safe space. Let's create a safe family. Let's not traumatize the shit out of our children. The whole agenda starts to break down from there.
Right. Because if we're bringing people onto the planet who aren't subject to, saying like, yes, please, and more to these energies, well, there's nothing left to feed on.
Absolutely. Like all you have to do at this period in time is just not be food for negative energy.
Literally. So then what are your thoughts then around, you mentioned like, well, why is this so complex? Because obviously if it's like, oh, two people who are meant to be together, come together, spread light, have a beautiful family. Obviously everything isn't perfect, but we know how to raise our children a level of vibration where they're not susceptible to so much like darkness and chaos and yada, yada. Why is it so hard? Or like, you know what I mean? Literally there's whole industries built around like how hard it is, and like women like falling into the traps of their quote unquote twin flame. And it's like the most, toxic shit you've ever seen in your life.
Absolutely. I mean, we are conditioned. I mean, there's kind of two layers to it. We're conditioned since birth to romanticize toxic relationships. Like look at, Twilight, Disney, whatever, 50 Shades of Grey, toxic as fuck. So we are just conditioned as women to believe, our worth comes from being in a relationship. Our worth comes from being chosen by a man, and simultaneously conditioned to only be attracted to really toxic men. And then on top of that, we're so conditioned, over thousands of years, really, to resent, fear, and hate our bodies, and to feel like we're completely inadequate and unworthy. And we kind of like think of love as an economy, and we're constantly trying to raise our value on the market, through our physical appearance, instead of going within, figuring out what our soul needs. We're so programmed by ego as well. Like if we're trying to increase our value on the market, we're looking for someone who has, the equivalent market value to us. Some women look for fixer-uppers, but by and large, we're looking for someone who has like equivalent market value. So we're judging ourselves based on these like ego structures, these negative power structures, and then also looking for a partner who we're also judging based on all this egoic programming and really negative programming in general. And then we end up in these relationships that like look really great on paper and then feel like fucking shit on the inside. And it's so hard to break out of that. And then there's just beyond that, it's just like layers and layers and layers of programming of toxic relationships, or even once we get into the self-help space and the spirituality space.
Oh my God, girl, it doesn't stop there. It's crazy in there too.
As fuck, it's really hard to cut through all the bullshit and just figure out like the truth. And like, mine doesn't have to be your truth, but you need to figure out what the fuck you want, what your soul wants, not what you're conditioned to want.
I mean, all of these like conscious relationship coaches, and this is obviously going to sound like a generalization, but the amount of like what I see when people are talking about conscious relationships, and then the messaging around it most of the time is like, it's like, oh, now you have an excuse to dump your trauma on someone else, and that man is just supposed to be able to hold it and like be present. I'm like, is that what a conscious relationship really is?
No, that's borderline abusive.
But have you seen this, right?
Absolutely. Like, oh my God, he can't hold my allness as a woman. I'm like, he can't hold my intensity. I'm like, intensity, or just like, you're so fucking triggered and traumatized that you have no business looking for a relationship right now. And I know there's like perfectionists listening who would be like, oh my God, that means I should stop dating. Like, no, like you need to get in with yourself and your spirit team and figure out what the fuck's going on for you and what you need to do. But I mean, a lot of times, people are like, okay, what do I do about this? What do I do about this? I'm like, sister, like you are suffering so much right now. Stop putting yourself through more suffering by, one, subscribing to like every freaking dating coach on Instagram, and two, by dating, because your nervous system is so dysregulated. You're not going to be able to call anything in right now except for something that matches your state of dysregulation.
Preach. So I love like your point of view, because literally, obviously I know about you because you're my client, but when I started going deeper into your content, well, actually, no, we were following each other before you came into my world. So I was seeing your content, but obviously I've gone way deeper now because I know you, and I'm like, everything you say, I'm like, yep. This checks, this checks, this checks. Instead of like spiritual relationship coaching, actually just being like bypassing of our trauma. You really know how to take people in, and it's like, you're awake, like, within the spiritual world, you're awake. And that's saying a lot. So what is it? How does your work essentially to support women in actually being a quote unquote match and in vibrational alignment with the soul that they're genuinely here to be with, or one of, if you believe there's multiple, I'm not sure your belief system there. And also, wait, was that it? Oh, and then also on the body love piece as well, because I know that you're introducing a new area of your work and it's evolving, which is just so beautiful, because also like, good luck calling in a soulmate if you don't even feel, do you know what I mean? That real fullness like within you. And I loved something that so side note, you shared on Instagram the other day, because you're pregnant, which is so exciting. And people had automatically been saying to you like, oh, well, how are you going to lose the baby weight? Oh my God, your face is getting bigger. And like immediately it was like, where are you within the economy of like what a woman is supposed to be, and your response, I can't remember, you can share how you responded, but I was like, only Izzy, she's so good.
Hey, like my body is literally a cosmic portal bringing like higher dimensional souls onto this planet for like the liberation of mankind, and you're worried about my face getting chubby? Are you fucking kidding? Like, I'm sorry, I have way bigger issues to deal with right now than like how I'm going to lose this alleged baby weight, which I've like, I don't even know. Like, you know, people ask me how much weight have you gained? And I'm like, who the fuck cares? I'm making life, like, get over it.
And like, why are people asking these questions?
It's just people are so triggered by the divine feminine that they can't, it just blows out. Like they can't even maintain normal etiquette. But yeah, so okay, so about the soulmate, like multiple soulmates. So I do believe that we don't have soulmates. Our higher self has a soulmate, like at our higher self's birth. And our higher self is obviously not just incarnated in us right now, right? Like our higher self is incarnated like across the galaxies, across timelines, probably in multiple different bodies on earth at this very moment. So the same would be true of our soulmates, higher self. So yeah, I mean, you know, I think we typically have like one person that we intend to be with because our path matches their path and our vibration in this life matches their vibration. But if something horrible happens, suicide, a drug overdose, there's going to, you know, and especially because we're living in a quantum field, there's going to be another version that can step forward. And otherwise, you know, you also don't need to be with your soulmate in this life. Like that's not an obligation. We can have really healthy relationships with really healthy, rewarding, refreshing relationships with people who we have no karmic baggage with and have never been with. And we can also have really nourishing relationships with people that are in our soul family. It's just like if you are called to a soulmate path, a soulmate relationship, it's because you have one incarnated. But I know that I've had lifetimes where I intentionally chose not to incarnate with my soulmate.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you say that. And I think something I've heard you say before too, it's like, if you feel that pull, like for me, I know 1000% for sure. That is the only relationship I'll be in.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm someone who's extremely self-sovereign, especially at this point in my life, in terms of like, I never feel like anything is missing. Like I feel good, but it's like when I feel the pull, it's like, it's almost like I can feel his energy. I can't see him, but like I feel him. Like I know there's one person, but that's at this current state of my evolution. I didn't feel this way before.
Absolutely. And you know, when I became only available to soulmate relationship, I was single for 3 years.
Yeah.
It's fine because I was like, I don't have the energy to, like, I have other shit going on. I'm running a business. Like I have my own soul's evolution. I don't have the energy to be in like, you know, sleeping around or like, you know, whatever bullshit relationships that I know aren't going anywhere.
Exactly.
But that's not an obligation. You know, I was working out the soulmate material through that time. Yeah. You can easily quantum leap now. And then in response to like, you know, how my work helps get you there rather than just, you know, like being a vibrational match, it's like, I think one, the big thing is just validating women who have this desire because they've been so shamed for it and so shamed out of it and have kind of gaslit themselves. And part of that comes from the self-development community because we're so afraid to be seen as like codependent. We feel like we should be totally totally happy on our own. And like that's all good and well, but like we're also human beings who have like physical like needs as animal beings on this planet, you know? So
Yeah.
one is the validation, like you, if you want this, it's yours and you deserve it and you can have it. Another level is understanding the history and the agenda, because once you understand that there's actually an agenda to keep you separate, it really helps one to see like these kind of like, we call them psychic attack or just kind of like programmings that keep coming in through this journey, and also understanding that there's nothing wrong with you, that dating has been so hard or that you've had
Yeah.
toxic relationships. Like that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you and you're doomed to be single forever, which is a place that I found myself in for quite some time. The reason that you've had so many shitty things happen in love and that you've gotten so many attacks in this realm of your life is because that's where you're most empowered. That's where you're going to have some of like your most intense evolution come from. And the darkness wants to prevent that from happening. So of course it's going to attack you where you're strongest. One of my yoga instructors explained it to me this way, like, we never self-sabotage and we never are sabotaged where we're already weak. That would be a waste of energy. We're sabotaged where we're strongest or where we have the greatest potential, right? Because it only makes sense to sabotage where you're strong, not where you're already weak.
Oh my God, it's
So
incredible. Yes.
with that mindset shift, doesn't that just change everything? Like your entire view of your dating life thus far and where you're going. And then, you know, of course, I'm trained in theta healing. I have been for like I don't know, 5 years, like since this horrible breakup I went through, that was one of the first things I did was get theta healing certified to get over the breakup.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you know, like in Soulmate Alchemy, my kind of like, I guess, cornerstone course around dating and manifesting relationships is loaded with theta healing activation so that it like really just takes you to the next level energetically, on top of all of like, you know, understanding the history of soulmates, understanding the dark agenda, understanding actual dating dynamics, because I have been working professionally as a matchmaker for quite some time. You know, understanding aligned action. I mean, it's really dense material, to be honest.
I mean, I think it's so beautiful. And also that you take the rush out of, like, I feel like, because, you know, society tells women, like, well, you better get a partner, you better get married, you better start having children. And then people end up, and I'm like, well, they don't even slow down enough to do this type of work to get there. So instead, they're like in a rush. It's not that hard to find a relationship if that's all
Mhm.
you're looking for, right? We're talking about like that true soul line match if that's what you desire. But it's like, it actually makes sense to slow down and do this work instead of getting divorced 3 times.
Oh, absolutely. And that
Like,
was,
people don't realize when they're moving that fast, like most of these relationships end up in divorce, which is totally fine. And obviously, like, that's not, I don't mean that from a judgmental place, but I'm saying, like, get yourself off the hamster wheel and just let yourself slow down. And then, like, what happened to you, where it's like overnight they're there and it's like practically euphoric. Not from like
yes,
a fantasy place, but like your relationship is incredible, like legitimately.
yes. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was single for 3 years and completely uncompromising in that. I was not going to let my time be wasted, not from this like masculine hyper protection, just from this space of like, yeah, I'm willing to like, you know, go on a date and like vibe things out with someone, but like if it's not it, it's not it. And
Yeah.
you know, I really let go of all of the superficial stuff because I was like, you know, okay, here I have two paths. I can completely deprogram my ego, which is going to probably take several lifetimes, or I can just surrender to the divine and be like, bring me my soul match, because
Yeah.
I'm too ego programmed. So I really let go of, you know, all my expectations of like height, income, appearance, cultural background, whatever. Like I didn't care about anything at all. Like I was willing to vibe out with anyone if they seemed like a good person. And I met some like really cool, interesting people that way that I probably wouldn't have met. Um, I had a lot of friends in this time period who were on the hamster wheel and rushed into relationships. And there was part of me that was like, oh fuck, like all my friends are in relationships, like I'm so lonely. And I just knew deep down that I was on my correct path. All of those
Yeah.
friends, no joke, without exception, are now single, broken up, burned because they threw themselves into something that they were, you know, one, wasn't aligned, and two, they weren't energetically ready for anyway. And I did take the time and I worked this material, you know, like Soulmate Alchemy came out of my actual process of manifesting a partner, because I was a good manifester already. Like I'd done all of the manifestation work. I'd done tons of trauma healing work, and I was like, why aren't I manifesting? Like, what's the missing piece? And then the missing pieces started coming through more clearly. And that's how I was able to put this program together for myself. And now, you know, it's available to the world.
And I want to say in your partner, because you did put the egoic things aside, I feel like there's going to be people will come from a level of disempowerment with that and then think there's and then start settling. And that's not what you were doing.
No.
Because
And
you know how people will be like, oh, he doesn't have to make more money than me. He doesn't have to be this. He doesn't have to be that. And like, that's true. But then they use it as an excuse to stay in a fixer upper relationship. And that's not what you mean.
no, I mean, a fixer upper relationship is like your energy is constantly being drained. You're constantly trying to change this person. A soulmate relationship is going to call you to a higher level of like alignment and life path. And, you know, it's going to activate your life's work on a whole nother level, but like
Yeah.
totally different relationship and vibration than a fixer upper relationship. But you know, to me, that really indicates that people have a lot of wounding with just like inner child stuff, and also wounding with the divine, that they don't trust that they can surrender to the universe or to whatever higher power they want to work with, and know that their needs are going to be not only met, but are going to be like so surpassed.
Like
So I,
exceeded.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally exceeded their expectations. We totally exceeded. I, you know, for example, you know, I was dating in Mexico, and in Mexico, men typically aren't very tall. And I was like, you know what? I really don't care. Like, inches is just like not going to make or break a soulmate relationship for me. And my partner is 6'4". Like, I think he's the tallest man in Mexico, you know, like
Legitimately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I was really hung up on was like I didn't want anyone younger than me. And then I was like, why? Like, why can't I have like a hot younger Latino lover? Like, are you kidding?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I just let go of a lot of that kind of stuff. And my partner was not making more money than me when we met. He was working in the arts industry, and he had like one of these like super cool vibey like gallery jobs.
Yeah.
And I was fine with that because I was like, I mean, like again, like dollars and cents isn't really a make or break for me, especially because I was like really abundant. So a guy's level of abundance wasn't really an impact on me. And then at some point I was like, we were doing some manifestation work together, and we were talking about some like childhood trauma, and he realized that his job was triggering some childhood trauma. And I was like, you know what? Like all of the skills you have are the exact skills that I need in my business. Like I'm trying to hire someone right now and like nothing is working out. Do you want to just come work with me? And he was like, yeah, okay, sure. And he quit his job like 2 days later and started to work with me in my business. And that is when we started. This was like, I think in June. That's when we started to brainstorm and like really put together the outline for Soulmate Alchemy together. And that
Well,
is
and it
when,
makes sense. Like you're soulmates, you're together, and this is the
of
work that you do. It
course,
makes
yeah,
perfect sense. He would be like part of
yeah,
that mission, you know?
absolutely. Income immediately increased by a consistent $5,000 to $10,000 a month. And now I'm making four times, we are making four times as much as I was prior to us meeting. We have like, purchased some assets together. We have other businesses that are growing. So yeah, that's kind of what I have to say on that topic.
So beautiful. And I think that's a beautiful transition into our work together. I just wanted everyone to hear the depths inside your world because I'm just like obsessed with your work. So thank you for sharing all of that.
Thank you.
And I would love to hear. So first you came into, I think the first offer that you did with me, you were in 888, the mastermind. Now you're in Fempire, which is just incredible. And I felt such deep soul alignment with you from the very beginning. And so I'd love to kind of hear what was going on. You mentioned that, like just business programming you had picked up and like different things that were happening like before you came into my world, and what made you kind of like want to step in, and especially being a woman where you're very in touch, you're not just like, okay, just teach me the businessy things. Like, of course we do the businessy things, but for you, like my perception of you is that like everything for you needs to be from a place of very deep alignment in order for you to like let it in, receive it, expand it, grow with it. And so I'm just wondering, like, within the business coaching is a big industry, you know what I mean? Like what made you desire to come into my world? And then also next to that, what was going on in your life and business where you're desiring to get additional support?
Yeah, so definitely there's a bajillion business coaches on Instagram, and 95% of them are sketchy AF, or have programs that they like have all these crazy sales techniques for, and then you get in the program and it's like, this is content you created in like 20 minutes, like for real, this is nothing. um so I think it was just, I set the intention that I needed a business coach back in May or June, like around the time that my husband and I were like brainstorming Soulmate Alchemy and starting to put the pieces together. um because I was like, I'm going to launch this and I'm not going to half-ass this launch. Like this is a big deal to me. This is my soul's work. This is all of the information I picked up through all of my horrific breakups, through all of my past lives. This is work I've been doing for multi lifetimes. So I wasn't willing to half-ass it and just like throw out a launch there and see what would happen. I knew I wanted some additional support. So I just set the intention, and I had followed you for quite some time actually. But you know how it is with Instagram, like you don't always see the people you follow. So you just started popping up more on my feed, and I was just vibing it out. And I was like, yeah, like I think this is the vibe. For me, it's all about feminine energy. And then when right around I guess it was October that I started 888, I had just found out I was pregnant. So it was kind of a kick in the ass because I was like, I'm dealing with some conditioning that I know is going to pass on to my daughter. Not only is my daughter incubating in my womb right now, but her eggs, so like my grandchildren are already in my womb right now. So this is like some ancestral work that I inherited from my family line, just like the like workaholism from the immigrant struggle story and that kind of thing that I just wasn't willing to carry forward. So yeah, those were the two kind of incentives, I guess, to really commit. And also, being pregnant, I've been addicted to burnout for a really long time. I was like the straight A student that I would like literally, had like would sleep during my break. In high school, I would like bring blankets and sleep in the grass between classes because I had like such a heavy workload. And then I worked a nonprofit, which is like the same kind of vibe. It's just like work yourself to death. There's never more money. You're always cash strapped. Don't ever ask for a raise, blah, blah, blah. Like if you ask for more money, then you're compromising the cause. So I had been really addicted to burnout and just feeling my energy levels change with the pregnancy. I realized there's no way I can sustain this. Like the things that I'm doing right now in my business are not sustainable. And I'm not only harming myself at this point, but I have like a child growing inside of me. So this just needs immediate attention right now.
I love it. And so it was really, and so then why was it 888 specifically?
I don't know. I felt it like intuitively. I was between that and the cohort, and I was like, well, I'm already making six figures. I've been sustaining six figures for like 2 years now. So that's not quite the vibe. I need
Yeah.
to move a little bit more in depth, um a little bit more intermediate, I guess I would say. And that felt like 888 was kind of an intermediate place to land.
100%. And then you came into Fempire, which I love too.
Yeah.
So I want to commend you because just talking about like, well, first of all, that you moved, most women would get pregnant and use that as a reason not to do anything. They'd be like, oh, well, now I'm pregnant. I'll just wait. Oh, life circumstance. And you leveraged your life circumstance as a reason to move and
Yeah.
actually allowed yourself, rather than looking for scarcity and like validating not doing anything, you were like, actually, this is a reason even more so why I need to do something. Like I'm actually impacting multiple lives in my lineage. And
Mhm.
then also next to that, I don't imagine that you want to have a baby and then be stressed out about your business and money and
Oh my God, no.
overwhelmed with clients and this, that, and the other. Like, who has time for that?
No, and I was super overwhelmed with clients. I had people like banging at my door trying to work with me. And I was booking out, at least a month in advance for one-on-one sessions. And it was just, it was totally unsustainable for myself and for my clients, because I was like, I need a better place for my clients to land where they can get the full picture of my work and fully integrate this on their own time, rather than thinking they can just get everything from me on like, random one-on-one sessions. Um, a lot of money was coming through one-on-one sessions. So I did have a lot of resistance to taking them off the table. But I was also not serving anyone really well, because I was constantly having to cancel one-on-ones because I was having horrific morning sickness. So I was constantly having to reschedule. And I was just like, this situation is chaotic, and it's not serving anyone in this situation to the highest potential. And then I was still super resistant. And I was at the dog park one day. We had already talked about one-on-ones, taking them off the table. I was at the dog park one day, and I was just like, I just had this like visual of like the energy of my business, and I needed to clean it up and move it in a better direction, because with the
Mm,
one-on-ones, it was getting so pulled. I could have 100 one-on-ones a month, and then I'm like, okay, that the energy of my business is being pulled in 100 directions, and I'm not the leader energetically of my business anymore. I need to
mm,
lead people into the programs that are going to serve them the highest, even if they feel resistance around that, because we're so kind of conditioned to the therapy model as being the
mhm.
best kind of like coaching model.
Which I have so many, my thoughts on that. We won't get into that on this episode, but yeah, exactly. And you really did listen, because I know we had some conversations where, first of all, to your point around chaos, anything that is chaotic in the business or life has just got to go. Like it's obviously not the long-term vibe and it's not sustainable. So we have to be willing to look at things and change them. Like legitimately, why do we say we want to like live the feminine way, have our own business, all these things, and then like live inside of energy of chaos? Isn't that exactly what the matrix wants for you to be, like chaotic, confused, and then all of a sudden break and like go back into God even knows what,
Yeah,
like legitimately.
absolutely. Because then you can't move your energy where it needs to go. And then so many women start their own business, get completely burned out, and just say, okay, fuck this. I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom now. Or like, okay, fuck this. I'm going to go back to the corporate world. And then
Yeah.
they
And
write this long Instagram post about, you know, how toxic the coaching industry is. I'm like, oh,
literally biggest joke of all time. I'm like, is it the coaching industry or is it you? You know? I know exactly what you're talking about. So what has been really, so one, like you just you hopped to it. It was absolutely incredible. I remember, so you had an 18K month when you came into 888, and that was between your matchmaking business and then, you know, your one-on-one sessions. And then quickly, I remember you stepped into your first 20K month, and then that was amazing. And then you started selling Soulmate Alchemy. And I know you've done, like, has it been over 30K in that course?
it's around 30K. Yeah. And for perspective, I launched the pre-sale, I think December 6th.
And right now it's January 19th. So that's fucking huge for a digital offer. And people think that, like, you know, oh, it's not doable. It's not doable. And it's like anything that is aligned is actually doable, you know?
Mhm.
And I just, because the work is so potent. And then I know you recently, so then you came into Fempire and you recently had your first 40K month, which is incredible because that's, you know, double what you'd experienced previously.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear for you, like, your perspective on like what's helped you with being in my world and in my spaces, since
Mhm.
obviously you've chosen to continue.
Yeah. I mean, for one, it's just like validation, because when you're playing with these energies and when you're playing with that level of money, okay, most people in your life are not going to get it. They're not going to understand like what you're doing. They're not going to understand. They're going to think probably it's pretty obnoxious of you to be talking about. So having that safe space of women who are also on the same vibe or even above you is just like, oh my God, it's such a relief. Um, and then I think there's been a few things that have like really shifted for me. Like something you talk about is like, what are you waiting for? Just fucking do it. You know, like we were on a call and I was talking about like, well, maybe I'll launch Soulmate Alchemy like in 2 weeks. Like I don't feel like it's quite ready yet. Like I still have some things to do. And you were like, well, why don't you just do a pre-sale? I had never considered that ever. And first week of pre-sale, I think I made like 12K. And it was so cool because I was still creating. So it was like, okay, all of these people are coming in, all this energy is coming in, all this excitement is coming in while I'm still creating. And I really think that helped me like channel some really cool stuff into the course.
Well, you're
Um,
basically getting paid to create, which is a way better vibe than doing all this work and then going like, oh, I hope people buy. It's like allow yourself to receive the energy.
Totally. So I think my biggest takeaway is just fucking do it, you know? And it's so easy, especially because there's so many business coaches who are like, oh my God, if you're going to launch a course, you have to do like a free masterclass. You don't even think about launching a course unless you have 1,000 people on your mailing list. That was advice I saw. And it's just like, it's so much noise, but none of it's about you. It's all about the coach's projections. And for you, you know,
Mm.
what you taught is like, strategy is supposed to meet the level of like the energy you have available. And like, I'm sorry, I'm a pregnant woman. I don't have the energy of some like 25-year-old business coach who like launches courses every month. You know, like that's not the energy I have available right now. It's not my vibe to begin with. So it gave me the permission to actually do it without feeling like I was failing before I'd even started, because I just didn't have the energy to do all of these things that all of these business coaches are telling you that you absolutely have to do before you launch a course.
I had not even thought of that. I'm like, you don't absolutely have to do anything. We need to like get this business, like what you are doing in energetic alignment with you is what really needs to be happening.
Yeah. And I mean, you can so easily say like, oh, well, I need to have 1,000 people on mailing list. Oh, well, I need to do a free masterclass first, blah, blah, blah. And then those are just things that you tell yourself to like keep pushing your deadline forward because you're actually just afraid to put it out into the world. And I think I was empowered to just be like, fuck it, like this is what I have to say, this is coming from my soul. I decided really early on I wasn't going to do any external research. I wasn't going to People were always sending me stuff about soulmates, like, you know, oh, this coach said this, or like this channel said this, and I don't listen to any of it because it had to come so purely from my soul. I didn't want any distraction, and I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to get stuck in like the research trap. It was like, I don't need to research. Like I'm giving what I have to give, and it's all coming from my soul, and it's all coming energetically aligned with where I'm at.
And I just love this because I'm always like, my business is channeled wisdom. Like, this is channeled wisdom. We're here to express channeled wisdom. Of course, we learn things like you mentioned, the studies, like what you were inside of while you were a single setting. Of course, we have mentorship. Of course, we have all of these things. And we're humans. We are largely impacted by other people and what's happening around us. But like, to me, it's very much at the same frequency through my business. It's like what is coming through my channel is what goes into the business and the end.
Absolutely.
While also knowing, of course, I've been influenced and impacted and I've learned things in this, that, and the other. But it's like all of that just collects in my field through osmosis. And then my job is to like release through my channel, and obviously I understand strategy and structure and all those things so that it can really take form and land because you want to be able to receive the 3D results of it. But I just love that like you understand this concept, and obviously no wonder we're aligned, of like what's most important is like your channel, and then we learn like what to do with it so that like you can receive back in the way that you desire to, instead of like doing all these random things that stress you out.
Oh, absolutely. And that, that's why working with you has really benefited me. And it's like, it's easy when you're working with all of this like really high level energy to get lost in that realm and to not
Mm-hmm.
be able to integrate it into the 3D. And it's really helpful, one, just to like work with you, who's like a master of bringing it into the 3D, and also the group environment, because it's really grounding. And when I look at a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs, or when I, for example, look at the people who train me in theta healing, I'm like, whoa, like you're so high up in 5D that like the gap is too big. You can't print it into reality, like you can't 3D print it into reality. And also like you're struggling to communicate with your audience because you're just like not able to stay grounded.
Yeah, I always say it's about having that ability to like have the access to the 5D and then pull it down into 3D. And that's where the fucking magic happens. And that's where the quantum leaps happen, is when you're able to like walk that with a lot of ease. And that's definitely like one of my zones of genius.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
also being able to understand people who do have a deep 5D connection like yourself. Like, I speak your language, I get it. And I also understand like the real world.
Absolutely.
And so I just love that you even have the self-awareness to realize that that's going to be required, that you actually do need support with like, okay, I feel this energy. I'm very confident in that. And now, like, how do I bring it forward? And instead of just thinking, because you've seen that spiritual trap that people fall into of like, oh, I'm just gonna like vibrate on the frequency and everything's just gonna show up. And then I'm just gonna like wing it. And so basically not bringing any masculine structure to support that your feminine's not expressing her divine feminine if she spilled out all over the floor. Like, that's the truth.
Mhm.
But a lot of people can't see that. And so I love that you're able to see it instead of thinking that like you're just going to conquer all through energetics alone.
No, it's a space that I continuously need support in, um, especially because I did kind of wing my business. I randomly one day posted on Instagram, like, oh, I should start offering theta healings again. And that was like in June. And like, 6 months later, I'm like booked up the wazoo. And like, what the fuck do I even do now? Um, so it's a space that I always need continued support in, for sure. But it's also like, I also can't sustain the energy of like, this is going to work. Like, this is perfect. This is amazing. Like, I'm not a narcissist, like I obviously have like some doubt.
Narcissist.
Right. And I do actually have some respect for narcissists because they never doubt their worth. And I'm like, okay, like, I still have issues of doubting my worth. I'm a human. Um, so
I just have to say something. I love that you brought that up because like now, having known like a good number of people on the internet and then known them behind the scenes and be like, whoop, is not what y'all think it is. And all this kind of stuff. Like, you do not understand how well narcissists do on social media.
yeah.
Social media is perfect for a narcissist. Perfect. And so it just cracks me up that you said that, because I was like joking with one of my friends who's a coach about that.
No, absolutely. Um, yeah, so I still also need some support. Like we talked last week where I was in the process of birthing this self-love program, Cosmic Self-Love.
Yeah.
And it was kind of blowing me out a little bit energetically. Like it's such intense material. And it's such a shift in what I've been working on. Not a shift really, just like an expansion, I guess you would say, of what I've been working on. And I was at my energetic edge and I really needed to connect with you to be like kind of brought down to reality a little bit.
Yeah. And thank you for saying that, because it's something that is important for me, right? And this is why my own energy management is so important, because you know, it's like I have to be able to like hold women with big energy and like from a very grounded place to where you can feel what you're feeling, and not like you weren't, it's not like, oh my God, you were an emotional mess, but just feeling like a big energy. Like I know what this feels like. It's like where the work that is coming, desiring to come through is so big. It's kind of just like knocking your energy system around. You don't know what to do with it, but you know, you need to move forward. And it's so important for me to like be that grounded space to where it's like, okay, cool. This is like what's going on within your system. Like this is why it's happening. And like, this is how to move forward so that you can like be freed up again to actually, you know, complete your mission that you came here for.
Absolutely.
Oh, so I just like love that dynamic so much. And I don't know if you'd ever been, because now, so you did 888, you're in Fempire for 6 months.
Mhm.
Have you ever been in one space for this amount of time previously? Like for
Um,
business coaching?
no, I'd never done business coaching before. I truly was just, you know, my matchmaking business was born out of desperation and it worked really well. But that's not the energy we're moving forward with. Um, yeah, so I had never done business coaching. I never studied business. I'd never taken a single business class. This is all my first. Yeah.
I mean, and it's so cool because you just celebrated your first 40K month.
Yeah.
How did that feel?
It felt good. And you know, there's the part of me that's like never satisfied, which is like one of the best and worst things you can be as an entrepreneur, I think. Like, because you always have the lust for more, which is great, but it's also like, can you like fucking calm down and just like celebrate what you've done? You know,
And
it's
like
like,
anchor this moment.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think I'm still struggling with that. It's like, there's the super perfection. There's still the super perfectionist, like high achiever, A+ student that's like more, more, more.
I mean,
And then,
all entrepreneur. I don't think you are an entrepreneur who's not a high achiever, but it's like we learn to channel it in a healthier way, you know?
yeah, I'm still, I think I'm still vibing that out. Still like learning to celebrate the
And the
wins.
anchoring and the celebration and the looking back and realizing how far you've come. It tends to be that we notice with financial milestones, but not just financially, but like in every way, because you couldn't have received this without the level of growth. And even what I saw from you, because 888 was an 8-week container and you were flying, you know, was just like you have such a fast capacity for just like receiving something and then like putting your magic on it and putting it into motion. Like I just feel like you're an energy wizard. Like you'll just take something and then, you know, you bring to me, we talk about it as however much we talk about it. And then it just like blossoms into something so incredible. It's like honestly kind of breathtaking. I love it.
Yeah, and I also, you know, I had never worked with a business coach before. I don't think we'd ever had like a one-on-one conversation before. So I was just like, well, okay, this is just an experiment. You know, I'm just gonna like take what she says and apply it. And that's all I can
Yeah.
do. You know, people work, you know, people will work with a coach and then just like fight them the whole time. That was not, I was like, no, like I'm spending too much money to like let my ego fight with this person. I'm just going to take it in, integrate it, move forward as quickly as I can.
Well, and then look what happens and what continues to happen. You're birthing like multiple new. So you have the evolution of your mentorship business or however you
Yeah.
want to describe it, because it's courses, etc. But you know what I mean. But now you have other projects and you have a podcast coming and you know, there's so much going on.
Yeah, I
And
we're
you're like Oracle deck, like you're literally becoming an empire.
yeah, totally. I mean, I think that when I look back on my life, I mean, I just want to say also that like back in like 2018, I was making like 20K a month. And I'm sorry, excuse me, 20K a year. And now I'm making like 20K months, like nothing, you know? Um, but I think at a certain point I was just like, you know, I had a tough childhood, you know, we've all had bullshit happen. And I was just like, I did not like fucking come from wherever I came from and incarnate on this planet, go through all this bullshit, do all this trauma healing just to like live an average life. Like I came here to
Literally.
something. I came here to like feel everything. I came here to travel. Like I came here to like live the full pleasureful experience of being human now that like all the trauma is behind me. So why am I going to come, why I'm going to show up in my business half-assed, why I'm going to show up in my business like without this like lust. Like I feel this like lust for life. And I think it comes through my business of like, let's just fucking do this. Like, let's heal this bullshit. Let's transcend. Let's, let's liberate ourselves so that we liberate the rest of the planet. Let's actually like shift the fucking vibration of this planet. And let's like have amazing sex and like eat amazing food and go on amazing vacations and be fucking rich while we do it.
Literally, because it's like when you can transcend the money drama that is implanted in people on this planet, you are so fucking free.
Yeah.
It ends up infiltrating everything, right? And so, yeah, we want to be able to go on vacation and have sex and eat good food and drink the wine and do whatever. But it's like, it's hard to feel all those things in fullness if behind the scenes you're worried about money. You'll never not notice it if it's a problem.
Totally. I mean, I think that the money is the number one tool of psychological enslavement that the darkness uses. So like, let's turn it on its head. Let's hack the matrix. Let's get as much as we want. And then that's it. Game over.
Well, that's why I always say the best way to fuck the matrix is to get rich.
Yeah.
Then there's literally zero control over you.
They have no control. You're free.
But it's so funny because people try to use it to the opposite because they don't want to look at their money stuff or they don't understand why it hasn't been working or whatever. And so then they go on the internet being like, fuck capitalism. It's not about money. Da, da, da. And I'm like, you're just playing into the very system that you claim to be protesting against by doing this. You realize that, right?
Literally like tweeting from their iPhone while they're doing it. It's like, are you kidding? Come on.
I'm like, why don't we just acknowledge that we're currently frustrated with our experience with money and do some work to change it instead of like having outbursts on the internet?
Yeah. And then if you want to move your money and make moves like energetically on the planet, like I'm sorry, you're not saving anyone's life by making $30,000 a year. Let's talk when you have $3 million a year and you're going to make some serious fucking changes then.
Exactly. So it's so interesting. And I love that you just like get it. Oh, this is so beautiful. And honestly, I'm just like so grateful that, you found such like deep alignment and trust in my world to, being here for over, well, it'll be, how long was 80 days? 80 days, 8 weeks. And then you came immediately into Fempire. So over 6 months, what is that, like 8 months?
Yeah.
And I know you're not really thinking about it because you're just like, oh, well, like I'm just doing it. This is what's required, et cetera, et cetera. But you still popped in through the DMs and like you had asked me a question about 888. And then like you just paid and I came back and I saw your message and you're like, oh, never mind. I'm just doing it. I paid. And I was like, okay, cool. You like paid in full. And you're like ready to go. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to have a baby and I don't want her implanted with any scarcity coding. So like, I want to join Fempire. Like you've just let the process of investing in yourself be so easy. And you're doing it at a high level. And with, you know what I mean? Like you're just like, even in how you talk about it now, it's just like, this is just what you're doing. It's almost like not even something you're thinking about that much.
No, I don't understand the drama around it because it's like, for example, like, my husband and I conceived our child and like we go to the fucking doctor to like make sure the baby's okay. And like we, have all of the like, the doulas and the stuff because I'm sorry, but I'm not trying to like give birth to a baby in the jungle by myself. Like I need a team around me for support. And when we conceived Soulmate Alchemy, it was the same. I was just like, I need support to birth this. Like I don't want to go through this birthing process by myself. Like maybe I could, but isn't it just easier and nicer with help?
Yeah.
And I conditioned myself really early on to invest in myself. Like when I was really psychologically effed up and like dealing with a lot of trauma, I just looked at the situation and I was like, I would rather 1 year from now be $15,000 in debt, but psychologically have my shit together than a year from now, not be $15,000 in debt and still be in the same position that I'm in. So that was, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago. And I've just carried that through. I have never really ended up in significant debt. There's times where things happen, medical expenses, blah, blah, blah. But for the most part, it's always ended up okay because if you're psychologically in the right place, if you're energetically in the right place, your money is going to follow.
100%. So I love that it's just like not a drama. It's not a big conversation. It's just like the way that you live. And it also just, it's like, isn't that the feminine way to allow ourselves to be so supported?
Yeah.
We say we want to live life the feminine way, and then we choose hardship, sacrifice, and like miss independent, do it on our own. And then we wonder why we feel like we're going to die.
Yeah. No, I totally have been there. And it's just, we're not doing that anymore.
And I am exactly the same way. So this is so beautiful. And honestly, I just love having you in Fempire. I loved having you in 888. I love having you in my world. And I'm just really grateful that everybody was able to like hear your story today and your work. And I also just feel like this was an important conversation for me too, because I think people can like sometimes think it's only the business and money coaches making money. I'm like, that's not true. We just talk about it because we're helping other people do it. And so your work is so deeply spiritual. And so to be able to sit here and be like, yep, she's just had her first 40K month. She has 20K months. Like they're no big thing, right? Now that we've touched 40, we'll continue, we'll align, stabilize that. You're going to quickly align to more because I know your energy. You just will. And like, it gets to be everybody who shows up for it. Truly, it really does. It's not about what you do. It's about like, because what you do also has to be in such deep energetic alignment with your soul. And it's just like allowing the aligned support, right? So like we have an easy vibrational match. So it's also, you also were like, I'm going to put my ego aside and just do the damn thing. And then obviously now I'm sure you trust the thing. And now, you know what I mean? It feels
Yeah.
different now, but it's like, the investments were aligned for you and we're just moving and like we're just letting it be easy, which is what I always talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not special. These are just energetics. These are just like the laws of how the universe work. You aren't so special that you're the one person that the laws of the universe don't work for. So just do it.
Literally. So just do it. I love it. Well, do you have anything to say to anyone who is thinking about coming into my spaces and perhaps hasn't done it yet, but is obviously like feeling the vibes off of our chat?
Like I just don't understand the drama. Like, we all need support, like we all have doctors, we all have an acupuncturist we go to. If you're not investing in yourself, I don't know how you're going to expect other people to invest in you. And like the energy of, should I do this? Should I buy this? Blah, blah, blah. Like whatever it is, it can be like a new blender or whatever. It can be a private chef. It's just like not nice energy to hang out in. So just make a decision, because the universe responds really strongly to the energy of decisiveness. And
Yeah.
it can't come in and give you support and help you out when you're in a space of like this kind of like indecision. So if you're like vibing it and you're like, I think I need support, then just move.
Just move. I always say, I'm like, we're not actually confused, right? We just don't want to look at the piece of ourself that we would have to look at or the discomfort we would have to feel by making the move. I honestly don't even believe in confusion. Clouded energy is never a required state. It's a choice. And it's like we say we're confused so that we can just like preserve our self-concept of self. If it's like we give ourselves validation for saying exactly where we are by like feigning confusion. I'm like, you're not confused. You just don't want to feel the edge.
Absolutely. And then we go to our husband and we're like, babe, should I spend $10,000 on this? And it's like, oh, no. Right. And it's like, no, like we're in different energetics, like don't use your husband or don't use your baby as an excuse for why you can't invest in yourself.
Literally. And I just love this because obviously you're a mom to be. And Milana, who's also in Fempire, was the last episode on the podcast, who's also just made very clear her children are not going to be a reason she can't do things in this world. And I
Yeah.
just love this like more empowered feminine approach to life where it's like, stop treating your husband, your children, whoever, all these things you said you wanted in your life as a ball and chain for why you can't do anything. Like
Mhm.
that is an excuse.
No, you're the energetic, as the woman, you're the energetic leader of your family. So make the moves and they'll catch up and then they'll adjust.
That's so funny that you say that because I always have said, but I've never known why. Maybe you have a perspective on it because of your line of work. I always have felt like we set the energy of the dynamic, but why? I'm not saying now we take full responsibility for somebody's poor behavior, like absolutely not. But you see it in relationships all the time where the woman sets the energetic tone. What's the reason for that? Or do you, but I wasn't like, I've just noticed it.
I think I think it has to do with kind of like our history as a species, because back in the day, like Lemuria times, women were the spiritual leaders of the community. So we still have kind of like inherited that energy of like we're the spiritual leaders of our family. And like, yeah, there's some religions that try to turn that on its head. It doesn't work out very well, does it? So
Mm,
we're just we're more, for the most part, I think women are more intuitively tapped in. My husband has really, really good intuition. He's like a really crazy manifester. But I feel like I think because I see more of the energetics, I still have to be the one who energetically steps out on the ledge and then give him a little bit of time to catch up. Also, I think our energy as women just moves a little bit faster than men. Men take a little bit more time to process energy.
it's so interesting. Well, anyway, this has been such a beautiful chat. Can you please share anything that's happening in your world or coming up in your world that you'd like people to know about and the best place to get in touch with you?
So the best place to get in touch with me is always on Instagram at Izzy Living. So two things coming up in February are my Cosmic Self-Love Theta Healing Experience, which is a super intensive self-paced theta healing experience around permanently deprogramming from the body hatred agenda. So we're going deep into like the history on this planet esoterically of why women have been conditioned to hate themselves and hate their own bodies, what that's done to like the energy grid of the planet, how that's brought in the patriarchy. And we're just going back, we're doing timeline work, we're doing intense energetic healing, quantum healing to control, alt, delete all of the implants and all of the programming of body hatred, because that is like such an intense programming that prevents women from fully stepping into their power, as energetic sorceresses, fully stepping into the limelight. Like it's like the core wound that radiates into all other aspects of life. And then also in February, the Soulmate Alchemy Oracle deck is coming out. So we are in the design stages now. It's so fun. It's going to be a deck for if you are manifesting love, and it's really aligned with the Soulmate Alchemy theta healing experience. And it's just like, it's so cool. It's so like the imagery is like so beautiful. So if you're looking for a way to continue the soulmate work, just like a fun piece to add in, or you just want like a little bit of a taste of what soulmate alchemy is like, that deck is going to be perfect.
Do you have anything you want to share around kind of what the vibe is inside of Soulmate Alchemy as well?
Oh yeah. The vibe of soulmate alchemy is like, listen, you are not traumatized because something's wrong with you. You're traumatized because this is going to be your deepest power, is your ability to manifest love and create your dream life, your dream family. So soulmate alchemy is similar to cosmic self-love. It's like, okay, let's look into why these agendas exist and how they're impacting you. Let's use theta healing to like truly delete them. And let's just get aligned with the vibration of like your true soul desires and love. And that radiates to all aspects of your life, just like getting aligned with your soul desires, and envisioning what that relationship is going to look like, not only for yourself, but how it's going to impact the planet, how the energy of that relationship is going to impact the planet. The last module is visioning the new earth through your love. So this is like, yeah, it's personal, but it's also like really like planetary work that you're doing. And the miracles that people have been reporting have been crazy. Like I said, it's only come out in December. People are already telling me that they've met someone, that it's totally different than any relationship they've been in. People are reporting crazy miracle healings, like from candida, from pelvic pain, from long COVID, just like tons of like really intense physical healings are happening, which obviously isn't the main purpose of the course. It's just kind of a side effect of clearing all of this programming and all of these implants. So yeah, that's kind of the vibe of soulmate alchemy. It's like making miracles happen and then calling in your miracle love story and your soul family.
Oh, it's just so fucking beautiful. Like my whole energy body is like buzzing. I love talking to you. You're the best.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, of course. And then also your links are going to be in episode notes for anyone who would like to get in touch with you. Are you launching a podcast?
Yes, I
Did I
am.
make that up?
No, I am. We're launching the Soulmate Alchemy podcast. I'm doing it with my husband, and
Okay.
it's two soulmates manifesting their dream life together. That's the general topic.
Do you know when it's coming out?
I think it's coming out end of February.
Oh, okay. I'm just so excited because like your husband is so legit and your relationship is so legit. And I feel like it's just so important for women to hear his voice too.
Absolutely. Like we talked about, he doesn't have a man bun. He's not into like tantric sex and abusing women. He doesn't, he's like not polyamorous. So I think women are so used to seeing like quote unquote spiritual men as like super ungrounded and sketchy. So I think it's going to be really great to have his voice.
Yeah, so good. All right, beauty. Thank you so much.
Thank you.